So when you're going on a cruise around real space harvesting some souls, which will be your transport mode of choice, the Raider or the Venom? Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're delving into the Drukhari Codex once more, with a bit of side-by-side comparison and some numbers on the Drukhari Raider and Venom. A lot of the Drukhari Codex revolves around synergy with transport vehicles. They've got quite a lot of fragile, hard-hitting units that want to be delivered up close to the enemy, and they've got some great transports with which to do it, very fast and open tops to allow some shooting. In this video we'll talk about the pros and cons with the Raider and the Venom, and what might sway you to pick one over the other. We'll start with talking about damage durability and transport capacity, and then move on to talking about a few other factors. So let's start with the damage output of the two vehicles. For the Raider, I think the most popular choice will likely be the Dark Lance over the Disintegrator at the moment, just due to the crazy damage output that the Dark Lance has gained. I don't think Disintegrators are by any means bad, but I just don't think that they're comfortably better enough to necessarily justify spending the 5 points extra. In any case, after average rolling, if the Dark Lance is taking out some of its favoured prey, something like a toughness 7 vehicle with no invul, you'll average around about 2.2 wounds per turn on it, or around a 50% chance to kill something like a Space Marine in Gravis armour. Depending on the exact target and how pricey it is, it's typically going to be somewhere around 20 to 25 points worth of damage. Obviously it is very swingy though, either you get that massive D3+3 damage through or you don't, so it's maybe not quite as reliable. Dark Lances are however great with single reroll cabals. The Blackheart can reroll the hit roll, and Obsidian Rose can reroll the wound roll, both of which are absolutely amazing buffs on a single shot weapon like this and drastically increase that damage output. Typically I believe it's something like a plus 33% damage increase. If we weigh that up against the Venom however, a dual splinter cannon Venom is 75 points, so it is a little bit cheaper, and those 6 splinter shots will on average kill around 1 dead Space Marine, or perhaps 2 dead Orcs if you're aiming at some hordes. I'd say it is a little bit less in terms of damage per point, more like round about 16 to 20 points when firing at its optimal targets, but it is far more consistent than the Raider due to having lots more shots, and of course it has its own synergy with certain cabals, such as the Poison Tongue Cabal that wounds on 3s, again a 33% damage increase compared with standard Venoms. Overall, I think in damage output terms they're actually really quite even. Perhaps it's more important what you have in the rest of your army and whether you're hurting for either anti-tank or anti-infantry firepower. Just with the absolute massive flurry of low strength attacks that things like witches can put out, I suspect that Morlists might be wanting a bit more anti-tank firepower, so maybe this is a mild win for the Raider. Next up we come to durability, and for the Raider for 85 points you get 10 wounds, toughness 6, a 4+ save, and a 5+ invul against ranged fire. The Venom gets a -1 to hit built in innately that you could use lightning fast reflexes on the Raider if you desperately needed it for 1 CP. Comparatively, for 65 points, presuming we don't take the second splinter cannon this time if we want to really maximise durability, the Venom's 6 wounds, toughness 5, a 4+ save, a 5+ invul against ranged fire, and -1 to hit. If you have some Space Marines taking aim at them with las cannons, then it's going to take around 9.6 to down the Raider, or 7.7 to down the Venom. If you work that out as per point, the durability is almost exactly the same versus heavy anti-tank fire. The Venom will take less shots to gun down even with the -1 to hit, but of course it costs less points in the first place. It is worth noting a couple of things though. The Venom does lose out versus any strength 5 or strength 6 weapons. Things like heavy bolters will be far more damaging to the Venoms due to wounding them on 4+s compared with the Raiders on 5s. Though if you're playing against ballistic skill 4 armies like Guard, that -1 to hit will be far more painful on the Venom than lack of it on a Raider. Typically against range damage I think it's very close. Again I'd perhaps say a slight win for the Raider, just because of strength 5 or strength 6 weapons being worse against it. In melee, point for point, it is a clear win for the Raider. Even if you don't care about that toughness at all, then the Raider's around about 27% more durable after you've waited for points. It's just got almost double the wounds for only a small points increase. Overall, again in durability, point for point, I'd say it's a very slight win for the Raider over the Venom. Next up we move on to transport capacity, and both of these have been quite significantly improved in the new codex. The Raider's up to 11, so you can have a character and a full 10-man squad, and the Venom's up to 6, so you can have a character and also a minimum 5-man squad. This does mean that the Raider has more transport per points. You could have a full squad of those favoured retinues such as Kabbalite Trueborn or Hecatari Blood Brides, plus a character to support. I think it's really quite good for big units of witches, which I think you want quite a lot of for the sheer weight of attacks, and it could be quite a good drive-by vehicle for racks with liquefy guns and the Dark Technomancer's trait. You can fit in 2 units of 5 racks with 4 liquefy guns total. The Raider does also have the advantage of being able to transport grotesques as well, which is a bonus. On the other hand, the Venom with its only 6 models basically means that it's good for some things but not others. Minimum units of Incubi, maybe supported by murder characters such as the Archon, Succubus or Drazar, and maybe smaller squads that are more aimed for scoring objectives than actually dealing damage, perhaps small Cabalite squads with blasters, or just very cheap durable racks. Generally, again point for point, I would say that the Raider is better in terms of transport capacity. You get more slots for the points, but often you really don't care about the transport capacity. If you just want a small transport with a minimum size squad of units for scoring objectives, then the Venom is absolutely fine for this. Because it's cheaper, it means that you really don't have to sacrifice all that much to send it off to an objective, and not worry if it's not really getting stuck into the fray as much. So let's sum up and also weigh up a few other factors. Overall, I do think that Raiders are going to be far more popular in the new Drukhari decks. I think it is a close run thing on every single account, but it could certainly be argued that per point they have the better damage durability and transport capacity over the Venom. Otherwise, they do have plenty of other unique options. They can switch out to that disintegrator if you really want a bit of dedicated anti-space marine firepower. You can take a shock prow for some drive-by mortal wounds if you want to. You can tool up with some splinter axe to make it an efficient long-range gunboat with some cabals. And you can tack on a phantasm grenade launcher if you were thinking about going down the more morale manipulation route, which combines very well with grizzly trophies, which both of them can take. Finally, if you did want a real burst of speed, you can use that enhanced Elysale stratagem for 1 CP. An extra 8-inch movement means that you're moving 22 inches on the first turn, and you could potentially even make a disruptive first turn charge if you're Cabal of the Black Heart. That could be very annoying if your opponent doesn't see it coming. Finally, in real world accessing the model type terms, it's quite helpful that it's included in the new Combat Patrol box, which I'm sure will help many Drukhari players get their hands on them. Turning to the Venom now, it does have a few little tricks of its own. It's slightly faster at 16 inches versus 14 inches, so it really does help to absolutely cement their movement advantage over the opponents. It's a smaller model with a lower profile, so it's a bit easier to hide out of line of sight compared with the Raider. Not bad at all for these fairly fragile assault crafts. The explosion is a bit less severe, so you're not quite as badly punished for bunching up if it does go wrong. And in terms of real world buying the models, you get a few more points in terms of pounds per point, and you also get a bunch of free witches included that you can mount on the model, but it's not too hard to convert at least some of them to be on their own basis, so you can add a few more witches to your forces on top of that. Overall, when everything's considered, I think that people will run both Raiders and Venoms within a Drukhari force. I think the Raider is just a little bit better in terms of what you get for the sheer points invested, but often you won't really need all that transport capacity or that points investment to do its job. If you only need to transport a 5-man unit, say to an objective, or maybe a fighter unit of Incubi and an Archon to the enemy lines, I think that Venoms will certainly still be used for this, as you can provide that useful transport capacity and just invest less points than you would have done if you bought a full-blown Raider. I think it's pretty nice balancing from Games Workshop, having the two Drukhari transports both have a really solid niche, without one or the other making the other one completely redundant. That has certainly been an issue in days past. So let me know what you think between the two transports. Do you also feel that a mix could do well, or would you go for one over the other all day long? I look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I will certainly keep the 40k videos coming, hopefully with a fair few more Drukhari videos over the coming weeks. Finally, if you are thinking about picking up any Raiders, Venoms or any other 40k things, and you happen to live in the UK, I would just like to mention one other way to support the channel, which is through my Element Games affiliate link down in the video description below. Element Games is a great UK-based discount retailer, 10 to 20% off Games Workshop's products, and if you click the link in the video description and order through them, a small amount of money goes to help support Auspex Tactics without costing any more whatsoever. Can just be a way to help support the channel if you were thinking about buying something anyway. For people in the USA and Canada, I do also have a very similar Amazon link as well. That works in much the same way. Click the link and buy anything whatsoever off Amazon. A small amount of money goes to help support the channel, and it doesn't cost you any more than normal. A big thank you to you guys who have been using those links. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.